And I really like to get the young men to influence the crowds that they're around, not necessarily just leave the crowd, but can you influence the crowd you're with? And can you be the leader of your crowd? And maybe those young men or women can influence the crowd they're with.
There is something special inside you.
Welcome to GNG Podcast with your host, speaker, best-selling author, Chaz Jackson.
Yo, what's going on, kings and queens? It's your boy Chaz Jackson coming back to you once again, representing GNG, Gift and a Gift. Guess what? You are gifted differently to make a difference. And do you know why? Because greatness made you. Yes, greatness did. Therefore, greatness is within you. And hey, I have a difference maker that's on the show today. Man, me and this giant here, we go way back to the college football days at West Carolina University. He's doing some amazing things in the coaching world, impacting and influencing young men as they try to grow in personal development and leadership through the sport of football. My guy, King Randy Birch, is in the building. Are you ready to get it?
Yes, sir, man.
Coach Birch, he's definitely impacted and influenced so many young men in the South Carolina area. Gaffney High School, 18-time state champs. They recently just won one back in 2021 under the influence of Coach Birch here. And again, audience, I know he's going to be an amazing asset. Go ahead and grab your pen, your paper, as we're ready to dive deep in some of these tips and techniques of how to impact young men. But King Randy, if you can, just go back to your backstory of how you kind of got to where you are, being a coach, strengths coach, being a mentor, and influencing young men as you are in 2023.
Well, I'll start off. Grew up in Shelby, North Carolina, not too far from where Chaz grew up at. And
yes,
had two great parents. We wasn't financially the best, but my parents worked so hard. I never knew that we weren't doing great financially. Both my parents were high school dropouts. My mom did go back and finish school. Mom got pregnant at 18. But both my parents, got into trades and stuff and ended up doing really well for themselves. I find that part of my story really important because, I don't have it as bad as a lot of the kids that I've dealt with there in my coaching career. But, I do have some similarities with those guys. I grew up in a single wide trailer my entire life. Like I said, two high school dropout parents. Mom got pregnant in high school. So, nowadays they look at me as this older white guy, but I like to let our players and our students know that, I came from a little different background than what you might think as well, coming from that. That was instilled with me from my parents. And the biggest thing I learned from them was just, showing up to work every day or showing up to school every day, being on time, being punctual. And I think that was one of the best life skills that I got from my parents was, being where you're supposed to be, being there every day. And I think that transitions well into athletics. As far as, going to practice, being at practice on time. I think that was a good skill that helped me succeed in my athletic career. I played football, baseball, basketball, track, wrestling. I did a little bit of everything as a child, mostly football and track once I got into high school. Got into coaching really because I was headed to the Shrine Bowl Combine in 2002 with my high school head coach. And on the ride there, we were going to Greensboro, which was like 2.5 hours away. And he had mentioned, hey, you ever thought into getting into coaching? There's not, the coaching profession's dying. You can make a decent living. You're not going to be rich, but you're able to support your family. So that kind of sparked an interest for me. Ended up going to Western Carolina. I was a walk-on originally when I attended there. Ended up, earning some money throughout my career there and stuff like that. But while I was there, some of the coaches there had mentioned before that you ever thought about getting into coaching? You got a pretty good football IQ and those things. And at the time, I was a criminal justice major, and I knew that I wanted to continue to do something with football. And Chaz, I think a lot of us eventually look at ourselves and get to playing and realize the NFL dream is kind of fading away.
Yes, sir.
See what the monsters actually look like. And so there was a certain time period at Western I realized, hey, I'm going to enjoy my college career, but I'm probably not going to have a Sunday career. But how can I continue my career into athletics? So I changed majors and ended up, graduating with a physical education degree and a minor in health originally. And that was really due to, Coach Rudel, Coach Collins, Coach Jackson, and Coach Scott, four of the guys that coached us kind of, pushed me to get into the coaching thing and thought about doing the college thing for a little bit. But at, 22, you knew me back then, I wasn't mature enough to handle it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
at
but
least smart enough
here's
to
the
know.
thing. Here's the thing, and I know you kind of diving, shifting gears from your playing days. But whoever's listening right now, Birch, D line. I played linebacker. I had the opportunity to play on the field with this giant. Hey, hands down, one of the best defensive tackles that I had the opportunity to play against, and played with and against some great talent. So I know he's being humble about that whole transition of coaching and not making it to the league. But man, I don't know or remember anyone that had a bigger heart than you did on that field and was willing to take on anybody. It didn't matter what size that O-lineman was, because I know we played against some amazing talent at Western Carolina University, from Florida to Florida State to Alabama's a couple times. So and Birch, he
NC
definitely
State and
held his
Philip
own
Rivers
in the
my first one.
line. He kept me free a lot of times and make some tackles. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there, man. You definitely did your thing while
Yeah,
you was
well,
in college.
those guys kind of influenced me. And then Coach Jacoby, our strength coach, I loved weightlifting, and he had put a bug in my ear at one time too, and I actually still talk to him occasionally as well. But he'd put a bug in my ear too, so I thought it was just a perfect storm to transition into physical education and getting into teaching and coach. 15 years later, here I am still doing it, and I started off at East Henderson High School over in the mountains, and then I got blessed and got a job at my alma mater, Burns High School out in North Carolina, and God had a different plan, and transitioned after 3.5 years from alma mater into South Carolina, and really happy with the decision. It was scary to want to, I think every guy that gets into that industry's dream is to coach at your alma mater and teach at your alma mater and be comfortable. I think the biggest growth I had was really when I stepped away from what I was comfortable with and the community that I knew the best, and those kind of things there. And I think it really helped me grow as a man and as a teacher, and obviously my football IQ and knowledge really picked up just from having different experiences and thoughts from other coaches. Really, it goes down to God and, the men that was around me that influenced me, because I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I started college. I just picked a major and started in it. And those guys, like I said, my high school head coach, my college coaches, just kind of put a bug in my ear. And I was like, yeah, I think this is something I could do the rest of my life. And I can honestly say that I don't think I could be doing anything that other than coaching football and teaching high school students. I got a house full of women with my 2 daughters. So when I come to work, I get my testosterone fixed. I coach 15 of my best friends every day. And honest to God, I really do love work. I very rarely miss. It's usually because a child's sick of mine, but I love coming to work all year long. I really do.
Man, thank you for giving us more clarity on your story, where you came from, the resiliency, man. I heard a lot of resiliency growing up the way that you did, and where you found your vehicle to football to get to where you are supposed to be. But I really love some of the things that you were saying about be where you're supposed to be, and how that was installed in you in the early age, like being in the moments. I think sometimes I know for me, I could be in the future too much, or I can be in the past, but just be where you are and grow from there. And you taking that leap of faith of just becoming uncomfortable, switching jobs, coming out of some of the things that you was familiar with. Man, I just want to say thank you for doing that, because it seems like you right where the Lord wanted you to be in Gaffney High School. So, I always tell some of the kids that I work with, become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it seems like that's something that you did. Randy, was stretching yourself, kind of like, in the weight room, the times that we work out for the first time, do a movement for the first time, you get a little sore, but eventually you begin to grow that muscle. So I know you're definitely growing. And between Burns and your transition to Gaffney, how long was you at Burns, and how long have you been at Gaffney now?
I was at Burns for 3.5 seasons, or 3.5 years, 3 seasons. And then I went to Bowling Springs High School in Spartanburg County, South Carolina for 1 year. I was actually there with Justin Clark, our quarterback. And then I was getting ready to move to Spartanburg County, and I was teaching PE in the gym, which was great. And then Gaffney had an opening in the weight room. Ended up getting a job over here in Gaffney, and it was close enough to my hometown that I actually still live in Shelby, which is about 6 miles from the state line. So, I get to live close to my mom and dad, and, my kids get to have a, relationship with their grandparents, which is fantastic. So I've been at Gaffney for 11 seasons now.
All right. So it brings me to this question. What is your definition of success? Do you have a definition that comes to mind?
I guess it kind of depends on the realm you're looking at. For me, in my professional life, I guess I would say the definition of success, is obviously the cliche answer is, to make boys into men and those kind of things. But I honestly believe that, and it's kind of just guiding them through as they grow up and transition and their hormones change, and to kind of lead them on the right path and really teach them how to be around the right crowd. And I really like to get the young men to influence the crowds that they're around, not necessarily just leave the crowd, but can you influence the crowd you're with? And can you be the leader of your crowd? And maybe those young men or women can influence the crowd they're with to do the right thing as well. And then obviously as the coach,
I really like that.
Winning's a big part of it for us. And then as a man, I think it goes into, doing what you're supposed to do for your family. I had my oldest daughter out of wedlock, with my current wife. Not the right way to do it, by the Bible and stuff. You're supposed to be married, but I was a young kid and right out of college, and I got a 12-year-old daughter, Peyton, and independent, marrying her mom and those kind of things. And I think doing the right thing now and setting an example for my children on how a man's supposed to treat his wife and those kind of things there, and making sure they get to church and, staying on about their grades. So I think as a man, that's kind of my role, provide, protect my family, push them in the right direction, through God and things like that. And being an example of when they, what they ought to look for when they get older in a husband or a man.
Man, I love it. Thank you for sharing them gems. Hopefully whoever is listening right now, you listened to me at the beginning, got that pen and paper. If you didn't, it's okay. Go ahead and hit the pause button. You can go grab some paper, rewind this bad boy back, because King Randy is dropping some amazing gems, some amazing value. I love what you're sharing. And thinking about from the perspective of that young man, he's playing football, high school right now, and he's looking to get to the next level of college. What's a tip or technique that comes to mind? Because I know you've been a part of this program at Gaffney High School for many years now. You guys won state championships. You know what it takes to get to that next level. You've sent players to the next level. So is there a tip or technique that you can share with that young man that's listening right now to help him get to that next level?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually I'm really passionate about being honest with the kids about there being a level for every kid that plays on your high school football team. And some of our best players aren't the tallest or the biggest, and those really affect, if you're going ACC and SEC and things like that. So the first thing I like to do is maybe not kill their dream, but maybe just direct them into the level of football they can go. Like, for example, my best defensive lineman this year is 5'10". My best D lineman last year was 6'6". So they're obviously going to play at different levels. One of the best ones I've ever coached plays Division III football at Cumberland because he's 5'8". So the first thing I like to do is be realistic with them that there's a level that all you guys can play at. And it might not be Clemson or South Carolina or Alabama, but, there's an avenue for you guys. The other thing I really like to point out to the kid and the parent is, college football and college in general, in my opinion, is not for everybody. But I'm going to help you if that's what you really think you want to do and that's your real dream. I want to present it to you, and I want to tell you how it works. So, for example, those shorter kids like myself, if they're going to go the Division II route, there is no full ride scholarships. Everybody sees them signing in the paper to, Lenore Rhines and Limestones and Newberry here in our area, which are the Division II schools. A $10,000 or $15,000 scholarship sounds like a lot of money, but the school costs $35,000. So that's something to consider as you pursue that avenue or career. Now, those guys that sign Division I football at Appalachian State or Alabama or South Carolina, those are all full rides. So the first thing I like to do is make sure the parent and the kid understands that you might go play college football on a so-called scholarship, but it's still going to cost you some money down the road because it's not going to be a full scholarship at a smaller level.
That's very important. Yeah.
The other tip and technique I'm, on them about is, I try to present, kind of the height weight protocol at different levels, whether it be Division I or Division II or Division III. The academic portion, I keep a bulletin board outside of our office out here. It has the NCAA requirements on it. And then you got to go into that. These are the requirements. So yes, you may be eligible because you have a 2.4 GPA, but you can't get into that institution with a 2.4 GPA. And I don't think a lot of people understand that just because the NCAA only requires this, the institution may require more. For example, the NCAA says you're eligible with a 2.3 core GPA, but Furman University is not going to let you in with a 2.3 no matter how good you are at football. Their requirements are going to be way more stringent or harder, as opposed to, name other school. I don't want to put anybody under the rug, but different schools are going to have different expectations as far as that. So the NCAA doesn't get you into the institution that offered you the scholarship. You still have to go through the admissions process. Another big thing I get on the kids about, obviously hard work and showing up, but there's all these what we call gurus and camps going around. I really do think a lot of them mean well, and some of them are money rackets. But we really push our kids to save your Saturday and save your money and go perform in front of a college coach or in front of a college. And we don't get mad at them if they go to some random camp somewhere else that's not hosted by an actual college. But I do like to tell them, like, that's great that you ran this there, jumped this there. But you're still going to have to go do it in front of an actual college coach because they have their own database. They want to compare you with another kid they're looking at. So they're not going to take numbers from VTO or rivals or whatever. They're going to want to see you on their campus most of the time.
Wow, that's important. I never really looked at it like that. Yeah, really looking at whatever school you want to get to and go performing to that coach specifically instead of like a rivals. I know I did one at Rivals at one point because I think NC State had hosted one back in the day. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But that wasn't the coach itself. But it wasn't like those coaches of that school that you want to go to. So that's a gem.
In my experience, the way that you're measured or timed and stuff like that, they're very similar college to college, but at some of the camps they're a little different. Like, for example, if you're going to a camp and they're using a hand time, you want the same person to do your time every time. So when you go to University of South Carolina's camp, the same 3 coaches are doing the time every day they host a camp, so that time's a little more consistent because there's going to be some human error involved. When you go to Rivals or you go to some, Kentucky for some camp, some random camp, there's a different person measuring your height, measuring your arm length, measuring your wingspan, measuring your 40. That might not correlate with what South Carolina or North Carolina or someone else did. So in general, they're going to want to evaluate everybody on the same playing field. So here at Gaffney, what we try to do is we get out this big database and we post them all up for everybody. And I kind of suggest what camp I think everyone should go to. And then usually in late May, early June, we'll find a mega camp, which is going to have, 15 to 40 colleges at, and we'll take a big van or a bus and we'll take a slew of them down, and they'll get in front of a bunch of colleges at one time. And then hopefully that generates them some interest and say, school X might say, hey, we'd love to have you at our camp in July to reevaluate you or get to know you, those kind of things. And so we're real big on taking our kids to one mega camp, and then we kind of push them to what level we think they can go to, whether it be Gardner-Webb's 15 minutes from here. All right? We encourage all of our kids. It's 15 minutes down the road. It's $50. You ought to go to that one. UNC Charlotte's 50 miles down the road. It's $50. Those are the ones you ought to go to because you don't have to, financially stress your family as far as getting a hotel or flying or, those kind of spending a lot of gas money or wasting a Saturday. That's a day trip. You can get up at 7 in the morning, go hit that camp and get back to Gaffney. And then, some of our bigger recruits, we do say, hey, you ought to go visit, Florida, or we got a kid at Missouri right now. And so, some of our Power 5 kids, and you usually know who the Power 5 are at a young age because they're different than everyone else in the school. They're extra fast.
They kind of stand out. Yeah.
He's 6'6". I mean, the kid at Georgia was 6'6", 300 pounds, could run and jump. Like, so that kid's a little different. He needs to go visit Penn State. But my 5'8" kid that I have this year, that's a fantastic player. He's wasting his time if his mama takes him to Penn State. I want him to go visit Gardner-Webb. I want him to go visit Lenore Ryan. So just being honest with the kid that there's a level that you can play at. Let's get you pointed in that right direction early on so that you're not disappointed as a senior. And Chaz, let me touch on this part too. I also like to have the conversation, like, if football is your passion like me and you want to be involved in athletics, coaching, or football, I also like to tell them the other avenues you can get into to stay involved. Like, I've got one of my favorite players I coached a few years ago, kind of did what my coach did to me. I've been pushing him towards coaching since he was a junior in high school, had a really high football IQ. And he's actually doing his student teaching right now, and he's going to get into coaching. And I just told him that's probably your avenue. You're an average high school player, going to be tough to get on the field. He walked on a Division II school. It didn't work out, but he's still pursuing that coaching profession. So I like to tell guys, like, you can get into teaching, you can get into coaching, you can coach at elementary school. Middle school coaches are harder than ever to find right now. You guys that are going to go on and make good money, maybe your avenue to stay involved in football and athletics is make enough money to buy season tickets and go watch the Panthers every week. I'd love to be able to do that, but I don't make enough money to buy season tickets to the Panthers. So, do you want to be an agent? Those kind of things there. So I just like to tell them there's other avenues to stay involved in athletics or fitness or weight training and things like that. It doesn't have to be go to the NFL. It doesn't have to be go play at Alabama. There's a lot of avenues that you can pursue and still, be a part of this great game and influence other young men and women.
Man, that's so much gold, so much value that you shared, Randy. And also, one of my favorite quotes is, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." And just seeing how passionate you are about sharing, how you're giving those young men, more clarity and focus on what to pursue. That shows that you really care. And man, that speaks volumes to me. So I just want to just say thank you for being so detailed and so oriented, and not just throwing them out there and saying, "Hey, I think by default, us as humans, we tell our children, you can be whatever you want to be." Which that's some truth in that, but also we have to think in reality terms, and that's what it sounds like you're doing. You're like, "Hey, you can go do this, but let's really draw this thing out. Let's look at the blueprint of where you are, what type of athlete you are, and how we can maximize our potential in whether that's being a player, a coach, an agent, or however the Lord's leading you." So, man, the clarity and focus and the consistency that you've had over the years, from what I'm hearing from you and what I'm seeing, man, that speaks so much volumes. And I know you're impacting so many young men's lives as well as young women in their avenue as well. So much gold there. And I know there's somebody's listening right now that they want to get more in front of some of the things that you're doing. Maybe they even have some questions on how they can impact and influence their child, a parent, or, a coach, providing them with some tips and techniques on helping their young man grow. Can you just share your contact information of how someone is listening to you right now can reach out to you?
Oh yeah, you can reach me on Twitter at Coach Birch 93. Birch is BIRCH, Coach Birch 93. Instagram's the same thing, Coach Birch 93. I also run the social media for the school, Gaffney Football 18 on Twitter. No, it's Gaffney Football on Twitter, Gaffney Football 18 on Instagram.
Any last words of encouragement as well that you're going to send out to whoever's listening to you right now moving forward? Anything comes to mind?
Like I kind of started with, man, just because the path you're on at a young age doesn't determine what you're going to end up being as an older age. And I always go back to the story of, I grew up in a single wide trailer, and I'm not rich by any means. I'm middle class, but I now live in a house with a pool and those kind of things there. And so do my parents. They continued to work and move their way up the ladder, and they're doing well, living homes and stuff now too. But that's just through hard work and again, showing up to work, being on time, whether that be at school or your 9-to-5 job. And let me touch on this too, Chaz. Like when I talk to these young men who maybe their grades didn't pan out right throughout high school, I talk to them about, you can go get a job at a factory and make pretty good money, and you can move up and not have to work your tail off the rest of your life if you show up to work every day, you don't call in sick in your own time. If you put 7 or 8 years in at one of the factories, BMW, Freightliner, things like that around Gaffney, you're going to do well enough that you can do the same thing without necessarily going to college or playing college football. So I really like to present all those different avenues. But that's one of the biggest life lessons I talk to our kids about, is just showing up on time, being there every day. We got a saying around here when we used to do our little mat drill stuff like we did in college. We used to always tell our kids, find a way.
You got them doing mat drills?
Oh yeah. So we tell our kids, find a way or find an excuse. Coach, I can't get a ride to practice at 6 a.m. Yeah, you can. Have you asked a coach? Have you asked a teammate? Have you asked your cousin, your mama, your uncle? So we're real big on that. Find a way or find an excuse. And I feel like that's really big in life. Like you can always fall back and say, well, I didn't have a dad, or my mom wasn't very good, or I was adopted. And all those things are legitimate things. But there's a way. You got to find a way to surpass those things and persevere. And really like to talk to kids a lot about those kind of things there. Just you gotta keep working, and just showing up and doing the right thing and being where you're supposed to be will get you a long way in life. And if you'll do those things, I think for the most part, you'll be happy with what you turned out into.
Boom. Mic drop, man. Hey, you provided so much value, and super excited to connect with you on GNG podcast, King Randy. Hey, whoever's listening right now, I know you are inspired, influenced through this conversation on this episode. And I want to encourage you, share this out to whoever you feel will be able to resonate with what Coach Birch is talking about. And I know some students, I know some athletes, I know we're on the subject of football right now, but I feel like these application points can apply to any sport and apply to your life in whatever lane you're in right now. So, Coach Birch, thank you so much for being on GNG podcast and just shining your light, being a vehicle for the Lord and just impacting and influencing those young men the way you are in South Carolina. It's been such a treat, definitely connecting, being former teammates as well. This has been an amazing experience, and I look forward to seeing more state championships coming your way and seeing how the Lord moves you through 2023 and beyond. So again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Chaz, it was a pleasure, man. Always great to talk to you, man.
Yes, sir. I'm going to go ahead and lead us out. Hey, I told each and every one of you this was going to be an amazing episode. Coach Randy Birch, he dropped the mic, so much value. Once again, let us know what type of technique you're going to take and apply to your life right now. And let us know where you are right now, what state, where you're listening to us from, how we can be praying for you moving forward. And here's some things that I want you to do as well. I want you to stay up with GNG. More episodes coming soon. I want you to do two things for me, family. Keep that crown on your heart. And please remember this. We are God's echo. Keep echoing your greatness, family. Peace.
Thank you for listening to GNG Podcast. Remember, you are gifted differently to make a difference. Please visit ChazJacksonSpeaks.org and let's continue to grow together. God bless.